Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I'm here today with Udo Erasmus. The legendary Udo Erasmus is the founder of Udo's Choice, found in Whole Foods and other health food stores worldwide. He invented the machinery for making oils, enzymes, probiotics, and more. Udo first pioneered flaxseed oil and the healthy fats industry. Udo is an acclaimed author, speaker, and expert on total sexy health. I love saying that. He has an 8-step process that takes into consideration all of the elements of whole health. That includes our mental health, presence, and awareness, our life energy, and being in harmony with nature and humanity. Sounds like somebody we need to get a hold of. I'm so glad we did. Hey, he's on the show today. Udo has given 5,000 plus live presentations on nutrition and health and 3,000 plus media interviews, 1,500 staff trainings, and traveled to 30 plus countries with his message on oils, health, nature, and human nature. Udo has sold over 250,000 copies of his numerous books, including Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, originally published in 1993. Udo has had an extremely rough childhood, which he talks about today, growing up in a war zone and living without water and electricity. Most of us would freak. In 1980, Udo got pesticide poisoning and his doctors did not know what to do to help him. Udo decided to take his health into his own hands, and through deep research, he made discoveries that changed the trajectory of his life and purpose. Today, Udo is a teacher at Tony Robbins events on oils and Deepak Chopra on peace. He has keynoted an international brain health conference and lectured at conferences on 5 continents. Udo has an extensive education in biochemistry, genetics, and biology and nutrition, as well as a master's degree in counseling psychology, which he really kicked in today. His latest focus is on sustainable energy and water management, as well as healthcare based in nature and human nature, and the thirst of heart resulting in total health. Today, we talked about nutrition a little bit, but more about getting in touch with your heart and what heart thirst is, and how we can cultivate more happiness in our life, not based on our situations. That the truth is, it's not going to happen sometime when we get there, when we get the perfect job, the perfect man, the perfect house. Happiness is not something out there that you're going to arrive at someday. It's something we can cultivate within ourselves so we can bring joy and happiness to every single situation, regardless. And we really dive into the whole happiness factor, how to know what our heart is thirsting for, how to get in touch with who we really are so that we feel enough in every given situation. It was so good today, so deep. Every time I have Udo on the podcast, we get into these deep conversations, and this will not disappoint. We also talked about healthy relationships and what might be blocking your happiness, how you can get out of your own way. And we covered his total sexy health system. Health is wholeness and 8 key secrets. And we talked about his oils as well. There's so much in this episode, you guys. Make sure to stay tuned. And the code for Udo's free book, Your Body Needs an Oil Change, is www.udoerasmus.com/sisterhood. Udo Erasmus, ERASMUS.com/sisterhood. And for his book, Total Sexy Health, which he's giving away to you guys today, both books, is www.udoerasmus.com/sweat. Make sure to get your free copy. And we really appreciate these free gifts and the joy and love and happiness and harmony that Udo brings to anything he does. So without further ado, the one, the only, the legendary Udo Erasmus is in the house. I am so excited to have Udo Erasmus back on the Sisterhood of Sweat. Welcome.
I'm glad to be on. We're sweating. Hot out.
We're sweating it out already. We're having a great conversation. I always think I should push record before we ever get started because we're having such a great conversation before we've even pushed the record button. And that's when most of the gems are dropped. And what was it that you said a second ago about, I said, I want to do you justice.
Yeah. And I said, well, I'm hoping, because I'm hoping that justice doesn't require structure. Because justice is a state of being.
Yeah, you told me it didn't require any structure.
Yeah. Out of that state of being comes the result, what is the state of being of justice? Well, you have to feel fulfilled. You have to be present in your space.
Oh, I love
right?
that.
And when you feel fulfilled and are in your space, then you treat other people fairly. Because you're not trying to extract something from them. You're not trying to get something because you think you're missing something. So this is why wholeness is such an important focus.
I love that so much. And that goes along a lot with something I just feel like I discovered or that I was just thinking the other day, which is, I think when somebody's speaking and they just like give you the encyclopedia and they just give you too much information, it's more about the feeling of the not enoughness that they're in, this whole feeling of not, so they're giving you everything that they have and you're actually getting less out of it because nobody can digest that much information. So if we would just settle down and go within so that we can project what it is we're hoping people will receive.
Yeah, it's completely true. What you just said reminds me of a time in my life when I thought if I knew everything, I would be happy. And so I was learning and looking at but I didn't get happy. I just got stupid. I just got my head was so full of stuff. I felt nothing because I got so in my head. And that's kind of where then comes the download, or I call it the drown load. People drown you in words, right?
Oh my God, I love that. That is so good. That's like a tweetable right there.
Yeah, drown load. And the truth is that what everybody's looking for is to feel whole in their heart. And then there don't need to be any words. If you're in that space and you're with somebody in that space, the words will come easily. They'll be simple, but you actually don't even need any words because it's a feeling and it radiates from you.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, like we're always trying to, I think, when we're out there in the public, you're either trying to prove yourself, win somebody over, convince somebody you're good enough, impress somebody. And if you just come from the space of what you're saying, that it's less exhausting, it's less work, right?
Yep. Yeah, because, the idea that you're not good enough was invented by someone. Life never told you that. But somebody told you, and who told you that you weren't good enough was because you weren't doing enough to serve their agenda. So there was just like a selfish move from somebody who also didn't feel whole, laid it on you. And when you were a little kid, you bought it, right? like we do when we're little kids. We don't know. We just come into a world and we just suck it up. Whatever's going on, we suck it up. But the truth is, life made you whole from the beginning. You have always been whole. You will never not be whole. But wholeness does not live in thoughts. And wholeness is not even just about your body, but wholeness is a feeling, and it's the feeling of life. Unconditional love for your body. And behind that love is an awareness. That's where your wholeness, your peace, your contentment, your calmness, and all your possibilities for purpose live.
How can we live our life more joyfully? And I just want to kind of use as an example, I feel that I have always done this, even in the hardest of times, always tried to find, how can I enjoy what I'm doing, even if it's grunt work, even if it's not what I signed up for. How can I make the most out of life? And then you see the other end of the spectrum where people are trying to attain all this wealth. They're having heart attacks and strokes, whatever.
Yeah.
Their health is going down the toilet and they're miserable, but they're still chasing on this hamster wheel after more and more and more. Well, speak to that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when you go for a job, I heard you, I'm just speaking to what I heard you say. So you want to get joy from a job. That's already off, because a job's just a job, something that needs to be done. And you may have talent for it, and you may have affinity for it, but the joy in your job comes from you bringing your joy that is in your life, bringing your joy into that job. And if you think about it, when you say, well, I try to get the joy out of it, even if it's not what I thought I signed up for, there has to be a process going on in you where you're bringing joy into that thing. And it's like, come hell or high water, I'm going to enjoy this. But then it's your joy that you're bringing into it. And the fact that you can get in touch with the joy in you to bring it into a crazy job. I did that with a pesticide job I had. I sprayed pesticide. Now, is that stupid or what? Right? But I became so conscious, so present. I was a perfect pesticide sprayer. And then I would always find ways to improve my delivery of pesticides, because we had a gun, like a pesticide gun, and I had a big tank, and, and putting pesticides on things does not have an inherent joy factor in it.
No.
It's actually what you're putting it on dies, right? Right?
Yes.
But I was able to, into that job, I was able to bring a joy, bring a presence, bring a wholeness. And when people say, oh, I'm looking for a job, a satisfying job. Yeah, the satisfaction in the job is the satisfaction you put in it. Satisfaction is an inner feeling. When you feel it, it's always inside of you, right?
Yeah.
But there doesn't have to be a condition. I'll be satisfied when everybody loves me. Well, that's never going to happen, right? I'll be satisfied when you do it my way. That's never going to happen either, because everybody's got their own motor inside and is telling their own story and is living their own trip, right? Their own picture. So it has to be unconditional, and it exists as a state of unconditional satisfaction that depends on nothing specific on the outside. Only depends on you bringing your awareness back home into your own inner presence. And it's there. So is your peace. So is your unconditional love. So is your wholeness. So is your fulfillment. You came into the world loaded with them. But then our awareness wandered off into the world and into our thoughts. And now we're not feeling it. And the only reason we're not feeling it is because our awareness is not where they are in us. Right?
Yeah, I love what you said about you're not getting joy from the job. I mean, you could be doing a job that's really amazing, but you are always going to find something that you don't like. And
exactly.
I think the whole idea of being joyful inside of yourself, and that it isn't a destination or a place you're going to arrive someday, but you're choosing today in this very moment to have joy. That is like so big if people really grab a hold of that, because I in my line of work, I see all kinds of individuals. I see them at their work, I'm making them do
Yeah.
some hard things. I get to see what their threshold is.
Yeah.
And I would just say sometimes you have people that they come around like a dark cloud. They're not happy. They're so miserable,
Mhm.
and they blame it on their situation,
Of course.
on their circumstances.
Mhm.
But you may know them for 20 years and they're that
Yeah.
way. So
Yeah.
there's got to be
And
something they could change.
and and there could be somebody in their exact circumstance who would enter that circumstance with joy, with love, with
Yeah,
contentment,
right.
with whatever, because we bring, I mean, what the situation brings to us is actually less important than what we bring to the situation. See, and one person sees the dark cloud, and there's somebody else sees the silver lining. Right? It just depends on how your focus goes.
I
But
think it really is the focus. You just said
yeah,
the magic words.
yeah,
It is like my father would always say, uh, there's enough good to think upon. So like I could focus on the bad thing.
yeah,
I could,
and we'll
but
always have
it's
that choice.
what you focus on. It's
Yeah,
what you decide.
yeah, that's right. You have power over that. Although we don't practice it that much, we practice more being victim of circumstances than being presence in circumstances. The reason I have this background, by the way, this is like quite deliberate. On this side is all the clutter, and on this side is all possibility. Nothing there, right?
Right.
And I live right in between those. I mean, in fact, it's the clutter is actually this way. And then inside that clutter is complete peace, complete contentment, complete wholeness, complete feeling rich, feeling amazing, exploration of what it feels like to be alive from the inside. And it is spectacular for every human being. Doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. If you could have a wart on your nose and hairs on the warts, all of your teeth could be missing. The experience of life from the inside is magnificent and awesome, independent even of whether your body is sick or whether your head is full of crazy ideas. And the crazy ideas are mostly not your ideas. There's somebody stuffed them in there. Somebody who was unhappy gave you some unhappy ideas. If I'm unhappy, then I will do whatever, I will radiate unhappiness to you. If you buy it, if you suck it up, then you're going to be unhappy just because I'm unhappy.
Oh
Right?
my gosh. Don't always buy what someone's
Yeah.
selling.
Yeah. 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 And if you want to know how you should think about yourself, why don't you ask life? Because life knows you perfectly. And life loves you unconditionally. And life runs the entire show from inside perfectly. That's a good place. So life never ever said you're not good enough. Life never ever said you have to do this and this and this in order to be loved. Life loves you unconditionally, right? Even if your toes are missing, or even whatever's going on, unconditional love from there. And there's your presence. You are that life. You are actually that energy. Your body is a temporary shell that you picked up, that you run around so you can schlep things from here to there and then back again, right? Physical stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that's not who you are. You are the life, because you say, oh, this is my body. If you say, if I ask you, hey, whose body is that? Most people would say, this is my body. Well, when you say this is my body, you've just told me that your body is your property and you are not the body. You're the owner. Well, who owns your body? Well, life owns your body. And how well do you know yourself as the owner? And most people would have to say, not very well. Why? Because you never go in and look. You never go in and feel what it feels like to be.
Why do you think people avoid going inward?
It's not that they avoid it. It's that like in your mother's womb. I don't know if I told you this story before, but in your mother's womb, I call it the Buddha tank, because in your mother's womb, there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. Everything's taken care of, and it's relatively safe. So what are you doing in the Buddha tank for 9 months? Right? You're hanging around, you're floating by a little cord in a little ocean of salt water, right? Amniotic fluid, right? And you're hanging out there. And your awareness is focused inside because there's nowhere for it to go, right? So you're hanging out inside and you're in a Buddha state, enlightened, lit up from within. And you can hear something inside, you can feel something inside, you can see something inside, but you don't remember, because when you're born, the drama starts. Now you have to take your focus into the world to learn to understand how the world works, because anytime something changes on the outside, you have to assess it very quickly. Is this friend or foe or irrelevant? And on the basis of that quick assessment, you have to then act. And you have to learn how to do that. So we are naturally made to go outward after birth with our awareness. So we started aware inside and not aware outside, didn't have any language, didn't have any words, knew nothing about the world. So we started present inside, absent outside. Now we gradually go present outside and absent inside. And now we're disconnected from ourselves. And now whenever we get close to ourselves, we feel an ache. It's called heartache. Something uncomfortable feeling in your chest. You know, when something on the outside ends, somebody betrays you, somebody dies, somebody breaks up with you, whatever it is. And so many different triggers that bring you back here into this uncomfortable feeling. Well, that uncomfortable feeling is not about that ending. It's about bringing you back, because these are your distractions. When the distraction ends, then you end up falling back to your default state, which is I am disconnected from myself. And this heartache is your heart calling your awareness to come back home inside to its source in you, in life. But how many people tell you that? You think it's about the boyfriend. You think it's about the grandmother who died. You think it's about the dog who ran away. You think about you failing in something that you set up to try and do, and it didn't turn out the way you wanted it, right? So we blame it on all of those things. And then we look for other distractions. And what we need to do is, when our heart aches, we need to sit with that ache, because that ache is calling you home. It's like thirst for hunger. It's like, thirst for hunger. It's like thirst for water. It's like hunger for food.
So you call this the thirst of heart? Is this what?
That's the thirst of the heart. Yeah, to feel fulfilled, to come home, to be with yourself, to be present in the space your body occupies. And you get that, and you're that close when you feel the heartache. It's like less than a hair's breadth behind it or inside of that ache is your contentment, is your unconditional love, is your perfect peace. And then when you get to that place and you feel it, it's like, oh my God, peace has always been everywhere. That love has always been everywhere. How come I didn't notice? Because only peace knows peace, and only unconditional love recognizes unconditional love.
Oh my goodness.
And when you're in touch with that, everything starts to work, because now you have your foundation. That is your foundation. And most people live without foundation because they're not doing.
That's why they crumble. You gotta have a foundation to build upon.
Yeah, and that's why so many crazy things. People do so many crazy things because they don't have a foundation. Love does, I gave a talk once on peace. And I do a practice. Basically, you need to do a practice where every day you take some time to be completely still. and feel what it feels like. Go into that stillness and discover what's there, right? And I was talking about peace that way, and a woman said to me, so I hope with all of your talk about peace, you're also against violence against women. I was like, oh, whoa, that's such a good question. So I said to her, I have never seen or heard or read about an act of violence perpetrated on a woman by someone in a moment of complete contentment. To do violence on women, you have to be discontent. So then if we address the discontentment, will that take care of violence against women? Yes, it will. Right?
You can't be grateful and be angry at the same time, and you can't be at peace and be beating on somebody.
It's pretty hard, right? Yeah, if the warriors on opposite sides on a battlefield felt the peace inside, they would probably put their weapons down and share lunch and ask how they could help each other deal with kids and whatever the issues are that people deal with. But they don't. They don't feel this. So they're acting from a focus in their head of, you're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. And the other guy's saying exactly the same thing. You're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. But they could also be cooperating. What does it require? What does the change require? Just a change in the focus of where their focus is. When it's in love, then that becomes to expression. When it's in peace, that comes to expression. When it's in anger, that comes to expression. When it's in fear, that comes to expression.
You know, it's so funny that you said the Buddha tank, and you didn't know that I became a grandma last Monday, or actually Tuesday. It started on Monday, arrived on Tuesday. And the big thing is she was in the Buddha tank. She had the cord. They had to cut the cord. Finally, the umbilical cord falls off. It's a whole process.
Yeah.
But I just the snuggling of that baby, just the peace, oh my gosh, I can't, I went to bed at night when we got home, just thinking about the peaceful little expression on her face, Parker Elizabeth Broadman.
Yeah.
And just that's how we are when we're young. Yeah. So somewhere along the line, we've lost that innateness with ourselves.
Yeah, when children are born, a lot of times their eyes will open and their eyes will roll around, but you see that they're not fixing on anything on the outside because they haven't learned to come out yet. And then gradually they come out, a cuckoo and a little touch, because that's all on the outside now, right?
Yeah, and they say babies
and they're really smiling. And when they're inside that state, they're in the master state. That's the state that all the masters talked about. The Buddha state, the Christ state, the Krishna state, the Brahman state, the Atman state. So different cultures have different words for it. And they don't apply it to the kids. They apply it more to adults. How would you like to reconnect to that in you? Because it's in you, right? What the masters talked about, they weren't saying, I'm the only guy who can do this, and you guys are just screwed, and so you better listen to me. That's like called follow the leader. But that's not what they said. They said, what's in me is in you. And they all did a stillness practice. They all did a stillness practice, because your senses will always take you out every day, and coming back always has to be deliberate. And ache of the heart gives it meaning, because the stillness, ache of the heart gives stillness meaning. So what you discover, and then what you discover is everything that we've been trying to figure out through religion, and trying to figure out through utopias, and trying to figure out through having fancy theories about how everything works. And we're sitting on it the whole time. And it has nothing to do with words. And it has nothing to do with structures and formulas. It is just a state of being. in every human being, the worst of the worst in every human being, whether they're in jail or whether they're living on the streets or whether they're in a high rise office, executive suite, or whether they're in the government, or whether they're in education, or whether they're in the army. It doesn't matter who you talk about. That is the nature of every human being.
So what are the signs that your heart needs attention, and how can somebody change their state of being?
Okay, so how do you know when your heart aches? That's,
Not everybody knows. They don't pay attention.
That is the greatest gift you've been given other than being alive. Because if it wasn't for heartache, you'd never find your way home. Once you go out into the world, you will never find your way home. Just like, look, if you never got hungry, food would not have any meaning. And then you start working and you get in this and you do that and you do that and you don't remember to eat because you're not hungry, and you would basically waste away. So hunger gives meaning to food. Heartache gives meaning to life. So it's the greatest gift we have been given other than being alive. And so instead of running from it, we need to sit with it. That's the only change. Sit with it. And if you sit with it long enough, you'll drop through it, out of your head, into the feeling, through the feeling, into the bliss. Inside of every human being. We came into the world loaded with this stuff.
How can we get more in touch with that light in life versus, if you are having heartache, how can we kind of, change our state of being? For, like, let's say somebody is miserable.
Yeah.
How can they flip that?
Okay, the first thing you have to know is it's already within you. And the really only reason why you aren't experiencing that is because you're not focusing on that. So what I say is, look, okay, this side where the clutter is, right? The background here, where the clutter is, put that on hold for a minute and switch to going here. Now, is that easy to do? No, the first thing you need to know is it's already there. You're not creating anything. You're not bringing in from outside anything. It's already there. It's waiting for you to discover it. And heartache is the nudge, right? So first of all, be really clear. This is not just a theory. This is how you're made. It's already within you. And then take the time to hang out in the empty space where everything is possible, and practice, because that's how you get good at things. That's how you got good at going out, but you are not very good at going in because it's not something we practice a lot. So practice until you're as good going in as you are going out. Now you've got like 30 years, 40 years. I got 79 years of going out. I started going back in when I was 30. So I've been doing this for 79, so 49 years now. And I'm pretty good at it now. So it's pretty easy for me to shift from clutter to peace.
How do you know when you're in the clutter versus the peace? What is your, I feel people don't know.
Assume that you're in the clutter.
Okay.
Because everybody's in the clutter. We're trained to be in the clutter.
I think so.
Right? When you're trained for a job, it's head training. When everything is head training. The whole society runs on head trips. And in nowhere is there like a government, let's say, government, it's got its fingers in everything that's going on. There's no equivalent of the government for this side. For the going within side. There's a government on the outside. There's no equivalent that encourages you and teaches you and trains you and guides you and helps you get to this side. So you have to do that yourself. If you know that it's there and you want peace, because sometimes the clutter just gets too crazy. They say, man, I'll give you everything I've got for a little peace of mind. Ever heard that?
Yeah.
That's words from a song, right? And when you look for that peace, or when your heart aches, that's your entry. So sit at the door, and then the journey that far, like that far, can't even measure how thin that is between you and your peace. But you have to wait, and you have to be willing to wait. And then you say, oh, well, that's boring. Yeah, well, fall in love with boredom, because when you're bored, you know that you're already out of the clutter. Right?
Yeah.
That's a good sign. And you're not quite into the light that's within you, or the sound that's within you, or the love that's within you. You're not quite to that yet, but you're progressing in the right direction.
How do you think people are blocking themselves from joy?
It's just habit. We're addicted to thinking, and we're addicted to doing. And joy it requires no thinking and no doing. It just requires focus different, a little deeper. There's joy in life. Where's the joy? When you feel joy, where do you feel it? You never feel joy over in the corner of your bedroom.
Right in my heart.
Yeah, you feel it inside, right?
Right.
So you feel joy inside. Why do you feel joy inside? Because it's already there. Right? But there's other stuff there too. There's thoughts in your head, and there's feet on the ground, and there's things to do, and there's, we got to, oh my God, we got this problem, right? So everything is in you, but that is in you too. And if you like joy more than problems, then go to the joy and practice till you get good at it. Says, this is not news. When a kid comes out, your grandbaby, right? Can't walk, can't even roll over yet. Right?
She almost does.
Yeah. And
she's little but wiry.
But usually when they start, they lie on their back and their hands go like this.
Oh yeah, her hands go like all over the place.
No focus, no
Right.
direction, no goals, right? And it takes time. How long does it take to walk? Try to get up, fall down. Try to turn over, fail. Fail. Fall down, bump into things, crash, and every time they get up. And one day, next thing you know, kids running around the block. But how much practice did that take? And that kid never quit. And why not? Because it had the example of adults or other people walking. See, if you had so set the standard for that, right? Set the standard. Joy, come hell or high water. Joy in the midst of everything. I'm going to focus on the joy. It's already
I feel
there.
like you're a good person to speak to this, and some people that are listening may not have heard our prior episode. So can you give them a little bit of your background and your story so they understand that you are the perfect person to be speaking about this?
Yeah, I was born during the Second World War, and we were refugees when I was 2.5, in winter, fleeing on dirt roads in horse-drawn hay wagons from the communists who were shooting at us, who were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And this was out of Poland, westward. My parents came from Latvia and Estonia, and I was born in Poland when it was part of Germany during the war, and then we fled to Germany after the war. And so the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. It's all women and young children, no military presence on those roads. And the Allies, which we think of as the good guys, were using the refugees as target practice. They were shooting at us from planes. So my mother took 2 of the 6 kids she had with her and headed off the roads because it was safer to go through the fields in winter than it was to stay on the roads, because that's where the planes were shooting at them. And there were dead horses and dead people in the ditches. And 4 of us got left behind, eventually got united. So it was pretty chaotic. So I came into the world in probably the worst kind of situations that human beings create, because that was all created by human beings, right?
Right.
But they're not created by human beings who were feeling the joy of life. And they were not feeling the peace, the perfect peace that is the foundation of life. And they weren't feeling the unconditional love that life has for the body. They had their own, yeah, we should everything, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then guns and, and we created all that stuff. I mean, how much energy goes into making missiles and making guidance systems and making guns, and that energy with that focus could also be put into cooperation, making sure that everybody's basic needs are met, right? Because
yeah,
both possibilities are inside of every human being. So I was very shy. I didn't trust anything. I didn't know how anything worked. I never felt safe. So I did a lot of book reading because books are safe. When somebody shoots, when you get a story of shooting in a book, nobody's shooting at you. And the books were safe in that way. And then I realized when I was 6, that, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And I'm going to find out how. I was 6-year-old. And so that's been my driver. I went to science and then to bioscience and then to psychology and then to medicine, and left because medicine, I wanted to know about health, and medicine's about disease. And then I went back into biochemistry and genetics. And then I left university because I still hadn't found what I'm looking for. And then I ended up with self-knowledge, which is really basically the exploration of who am I? Who are we? What is this? Right? And so that's.
So what's the biggest lesson that you think that you took from that experience where everybody is basically at war with each other?
Well, how bad it can get. And so that's why my drivers, this is how bad it can get if we don't focus on our better angels, they call it, sometimes if we don't focus on what we can do to make the world better, then it'll always drift to getting worse. So that means we have to set a higher standard. Why don't we set peace as a standard? I mean, how many people do you know that have actually deliberately set peace as their standard, or unconditional love as their standard? Because if you don't set the standard, then what are you working towards? Oh, well, then no, you're just going to drift.
I
Right?
think that's one of my core values, one of my biggest, is just having peace.
Yeah.
I mean, it cannot be understated.
Yeah. So my guess is, if that's true, then my guess is you had some roughness in your childhood too.
I had some roughness, probably, yes, in the childhood, but also in my first marriage. And I think when you have somebody that is destroying the peace, you learn to appreciate it much more.
Yeah. Or you want a more permanent peace that can't be destroyed.
Right. You're just like, oh my gosh, let's keep everything peaceful.
Yeah.
So this is such a good conversation.
And everybody has trauma in their life. Like, trauma is part of living on this planet. You bang your knee, that's trauma. Trauma just means injury, right? It means wound, right?
Right.
And it could be physical, it could be psychological, it could be emotional, it could be sexual. Trauma is trauma. Peace is what's possible.
Right. It is. And people that have listened to me over and over on this show know the traumas I've been through. But what I'd say on the flip side of all that trauma is, you don't have to stay in that. It's something bad could happen to you, but it's a choice to stay there, and you can make the most out of your life. All you have to do is just decide that you want it to be different and make those choices.
Yeah, because you can live in memory of trauma and then re-traumatize yourself every time you think about it. At some point, you want to leave it in the past. It's
Right.
not forget it, not excuse it or anything like that, but live for life instead of living for a memory of trauma.
Right. I think you don't want to curse, rehearse, and nurse it.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it's still what you focus on, right? It's like, if I keep focusing on that bad thing, I truly am re-traumatizing myself. Yeah. And so as quickly as you can forget it and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you have
better
to do
off.
some processing, and sometimes there's tears to
Yeah,
cry and
of
all of that,
course,
because when
healing.
you knee, when you skin your knee, that hurts. And then you cry, like just like kids do, right? And then they
Well,
go on,
I
and they know, and then they become a little more careful so that they don't skin their knees often. Then they'll do something else. Then they learn. That's how we learn.
I
So
just
in that sense, trauma is a very powerful teacher.
yeah, I just have to think that your heart can heal just like your body can heal. And I was listening to you on the Spartan Up podcast. I've done many Spartan
Mhm,
races.
mhm.
And I loved what you said about how the body turns over every year and how it heals and the whole healing process.
98%. 98% of the atoms in your body are removed and replaced every year. So like your body is a major construction site all the time. I mean, how many times if 98% turns over every year, how many, if you live 100 years, how much stuff went through you? Physical stuff that removed and replaced, removed and replaced, removed and replaced. And then healing is possibly because of that, because all you have to do is set a higher standard and you will have rebuilt your body 98% to a higher standard in 1 year. But you have to set the standard. So it's kind of like I want to set a standard for something I'm not able to do, because now I've got something to work on. And then what happens in the process of committing to that and then acting into it, I see every time I come short of that standard. And when I notice that, then I learn something, because I'm committed to the standard. But if you're not committed to anything, then it's really hard to find direction. So commit to peace, commit to unconditional love, commit to a world that works for everybody, commit to cooperation instead of competition, commit
Ah, I
to
like that.
commit to doing what needs to be done, commit to bringing joy into your situation, no matter what situation it is, whether it's job or family or whatever. Commit, and you'll fall short a lot, but after a month
Be a
or a
lot
year
closer.
or 10 years or 20 years, will have so much better quality of life that it's amazing why you didn't make your commitments when you were 1 year old.
And it's like the quote where a ship can't set sail with no destination. I mean, it's
Right,
not going to get anywhere.
right.
So it's
Yeah,
the same thing.
you need to know two things. One is where you are, and the second is where you want to go. But where you
Right.
are is discontent, and where you want to go is contentment. Now you have a track, right? And you'll know when you're discontent, and you'll know when you're content, because
Love that.
if you make it a goal, then you start noticing. I did that with a woman once. I decided I had never loved a woman unconditionally, and so I decided that I wanted to do that. And I didn't tell the woman, but it was for me, right? This was
Good
my fault.
idea. She
Yeah,
might have
yeah.
taken advantage of that.
Well, that's my point. Yeah, it could, but so I decided to do that, and the first thing that happened is I noticed every time I had expectations, but I never noticed that before. I had so many expectations, and every time I saw it, oh, there's an expectation. That's not unconditional love. And so then it was like I would give what I could, and I would accept what came back, but I didn't have any demands. There wasn't an expectation that she has to do this because I'm doing that, because that's not
Oh, right,
unconditional
right,
love.
right.
That's a
That's
horse
like
trade.
strings attached.
Huh? Yeah.
People do
Right.
things a lot of the times with strings
But
attached
but
rather than just out of the goodness out of their heart of being
most
generous.
relation most relationships are horse trades, business relationships. I'll do this for you if you do that for
You
me.
scratch my back, I'll scratch your
Yeah, yeah,
back.
yeah. Yeah. And
Right.
what if you decided to love somebody and have no strings attached, not ask for anything back? Now, why would you do that? Life is that kind of love, because it gives and gives and gives and gives, never asks for anything back, never goes on strike, never gets divorced. Well, at one point it'll get divorced, right? When you die, life and body part company. right? Never takes a weekend off, never asks for a raise, never complains. Life doesn't complain. Your mind complains, but life does not complain, right? So there's a model of unconditional love. You are actually that unconditional love. So unconditional loving is actually your nature. But you have to be in touch with it for that. You have to be in the presence of that for that to be easy. Well, I wasn't in the presence of that regarding relationships when I set that when I set that standard. But I learned a lot. 10 years.
I think it really helps when you're in a relationship, like what you're saying about the unconditional and the expectation. But I think also if you can just look at that person and see them just as they are, rather, that, oh, this person's pretty good overall.
Mhm.
And we want like the same things and we're on the same team. And like, why fight against each other? Because, I know this is going to sound cliche, but
Mhm.
teamwork makes the dream work. But
Correct.
if you can just kind of not absorb the things when maybe your partner is upset and just observe, because all these things about them. So like, don't get all caught up in the muck. Look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, but that's hard to do if
Hmm.
I'm not feeling taken care of.
Right.
And I
Right.
want and I don't feel cared for because I haven't done my homework. Because the homework is to come
For
home
you to care for
into
yourself.
the unconditional love that runs this show. Well, when I'm in that, I can see that in her. But when I'm not in that, I don't see it in her either. And that's, in my view of it, of relationships, what's missing in relationships, neither side is doing their homework. And when I don't do my homework, and this is what happened in my marriage, the one that got me to pesticides, spraying pesticides, and then getting me into health. I saw it in her. When I saw her, she was the goddess. She was shining. She was like unbelievable. And apparently she saw that in me too. But it turned out that she couldn't get to it in her. So she hadn't done her homework. And I couldn't get into it in me. So I hadn't done my homework. So I expected, and that's why I was so attracted to her, is I expected that she would complete me.
Oh, yeah, so many people do that.
And she expected that I would complete her. But
Mhm.
how, and so I thought I would get my love from her and she would get her love from me, but she couldn't get in touch with the love in her. And I couldn't get to the love inside of me. So if neither of the people in the relationship can get to the love inside of them, where's the love in the relationship supposed to come from? And that's what happened. And that's what happened to that
Good
relationship.
point. Good point
And
on
then
that.
and then it deteriorated into, from first, oh my God, to, you always bringing me down. You never do this. You never do, and
It's the
then we just
complaining.
argue,
You've got
argue,
to bring the
argue.
best out in people and see the good in them, because then it makes them want
Yeah,
to do more of that. If
yeah.
you're constantly complaining about somebody, it isn't going to bring you what you want. And I think too, if when you are in a relationship, uh, why don't you take the responsibility of showing up differently? If
Mhm.
things aren't coming out the way you want them
Yeah,
to,
that,
then you show up differently. It will
yeah.
change the whole
But
dynamics.
but that never occurs to people during the argument. Oh, let me show up differently, and
No.
until my view is, until we've done our homework and we're on track, we're not ready for a relationship, because we're always going to try to suck out of the relationship something that we can't get from outside because we have to connect to it inside. And so do that first. And then it's not, oh, this woman will complete me. Then it's, okay, what kind of dance can we create here? Then it's like, then you can start something, and whether it's traveling together or doing business together or having kids together or whatever it is, because It's different for different people. But expecting her to do my homework for me is unfair and impossible.
Oh my gosh, what we
And
expect
her
sometimes
expecting
is off the
except,
charts.
except and her expecting me to do her homework for me is also unfair and not possible. And that's why we all have to do our homework.
I mean, seriously, one day I just remember thinking all the things my husband does. And I am like, holy crap, he's pretty darn good. Like, I mean, where I just thought about
Yeah.
what was I complaining about? And I
Mhm.
saw all these women complaining about their men, and I thought about it for a while, and I was like, they can't be that. I mean, they can't all be that bad.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, he does so much, so many good things. Why don't I be his piece and be his cheerleader? And really, I really changed the way I was showing up, and it changed everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. But then you
Yeah.
had to do some homework before you had to at least think
You
about
have to work upon yourself. And that's probably the biggest job we all need to do,
it. Yep.
because you can't change somebody else. The only thing you can change is you.
Yep.
You can only change yourself.
Yep. And everything you need is inside of you. So you have the pick of
You already have the tools
all there. It's
all
all there.
day long, all day
But that's
long.
not what we do. That's not what we do. And again, we don't get trained that way. You know, it's like if you look at the 2-bit Western novels, I used to read those Zane Grey novels. I don't know if you know them, right? But it's always like the cowboy's riding on the range and he's doing this cattle and he's doing work and he's a great guy and it's like, but there's something missing. And there's something missing, and he's so competent and everybody likes him and he's like pillar of his community, but there's something missing. And guess what is missing?
What?
He needs a woman.
He needs
The
a
woman.
woman.
So the story is that the woman is fulfillment, and we're trained that way, right? Somebody is going to fix it on the outside, and so he gets the woman, and then they lived happily ever after, because that's where the novel ends. But you have no idea how much crap they go through in the next 60 years because neither of them did their homework, and they think that each other should supply what they need to do themselves.
Oh, gosh.
And it's in the songs. All the love songs are like that.
It's unrealistic.
It is complete. It is complete. Yeah, it's misleading. It's not just
Yes,
unrealistic. It's totally misleading.
absolutely. And I think every relationship then also goes through phases. So there again, commitment is key,
Mhm.
because you if you ride out the waves, you can have the peaceful waters later. It may not always be peaceful. There's going to be some waves, but I think with the commitment
But
and
there will always be waves outside. There will
yeah,
always be peace inside.
right.
And the ability to choose focus is
Mhm.
always going to be important.
So good today. So good today. And I would not be worth my weight in gold today if I did not at least ask you a health question.
Well,
Although I have to
this is about
say,
health.
this was
This is
about health.
You bet.
This is about your
Health.
mental and emotional health.
You bet. Everything affects health.
Yeah, because I think I also heard you say on the Spartan that if you have a crappy life, you're not going to take care of yourself. And you talk a lot about total sexy health, and you have all these concepts. And we all want to be, I know on this podcast, we all want to be sexy. So can you give us some clue how we can have this total sexy health?
So everything affects health. Everything. Who you hang out with, what kind of job you do, what your environment is like, how you feel inside, whether you're connected to yourself or not, what you eat, how you exercise, whether you rest, whether your digestion works properly. Everything affects health. So if you want to be fully healthy, you have to give everything its due. And there's 8 pieces to the sexy health. I'll tell you why I use sexy in a minute. So one is awareness. Awareness is the foundation of your existence, but also the existence of the universe. And that peace is your foundation. It's within you. It's the deepest part of your being. There's nothing there. It's this. This is peace, right? There's nothing there, no forms, no stuff. Peace is there. That's foundation. Out of that awareness comes energy. Energy is life. Life energy. Life energy is actually solar energy that went into green plants that got stored in the bonds between atoms to make molecules. Those molecules become your food. You eat those foods, you break them down. And when you break them down, metabolize them, they call it, then that solar energy is released, and there's your life. Solar energy, your life. So life energy. But if you go into that energy, instead of seeing the energy, being the energy, that energy that you find inside when you bring your awareness inside is also called the master. And that energy weighs nothing, is formless, runs everything, is present everywhere in your body. It's all power in your body, and it's all knowledge in your body. And sometimes people call that God. God, we talk about God, even we try to get God from the outside, right? But God is on the inside. God is everywhere, so God has to be on the inside too. And your direct access is on the inside. Sit down, get quiet, experience, right? So that's number two, is that.
That's the way to get clear.
Yeah. So this unconditional love that is life energy shines out as inspiration or creativity. And it's the positive part of mind where you help make things better, right? In service of life, making it better. And it could be physically, it could be mentally, it could be emotionally, it could be economically, it could be any which way, environmentally, socially, everything. So that's number three. Number four is the physical body: food, fitness, digestion, detox, and rest. Those are the main, and then food, water, air, and light. Should be fresh, whole, raw, organic, mostly plant-based if you want the longest life, the longest body, because life actually is eternal. It's formless and indestructible. So the best physical health and longest physical existence come from fresh, whole, raw, organic, mostly plant-based. So that's number four. Number five is, I call it survival smarts, and that's crisis preparedness. So learn the skills. Whatever crises are common where you live, be prepared for them. And you want to do that preemptively as much as possible, because it's hard to learn survival skills when you're in the middle of the crisis.
Although many of us don't fly by the seat of our pants,
Of course we do. We become really interested in peace in the middle of the war when the bullets are flying. That's not the best time to cultivate peace, right? So that's number five. And then next is social group. How people affect your health.
Right.
Somebody's always negative. It takes a lot to stay in your foundation when people are always nattering at you. But you can become that. But you can become that strong. But what we also can do is
you can do a detox. You can detox some of those people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what do they call them? Bless them out of your life. Yeah, and so that affects your health. So you want to pick your friends well, and it should be people who are straight with you, people who encourage you, and people who don't suck on your energy, because some people are always needy. And then there's, especially in women, there's this thing about helping.
Oh yeah, overkill.
They run themselves ragged trying to help. And it's a beautiful impulse. But number one is, if you're screwed, then you're going to be of use to nobody, including yourself.
Oh, that's a good point.
So that's social group. Then there's natural environment. This quality of the natural environment affects your health. So take care of the planet, plant some trees. So it wouldn't be so hot if we planted trees. We've chopped 7.5 trillion trees off the planet in the last 10,000 years. So we've got a quarter of them left, 2.5 trillion. And one of the big reasons of climate change is, when you have a tree, in summer when you have a tree, if it's really hot, you go in the shade of the tree and you notice how much cooler it is. Well, they keep the winters warmer and they keep the summers cooler. Oh, that's called climate change. And we may be doing less is also good for the environment, other than planting trees. So that's the natural environment. And then number 8 is the big picture. Big picture is this.
The big picture.
Big picture is here. I am in a physical body that is a terminal condition. No matter how healthy I am, the body is a terminal condition. Okay. And I am present in an infinite universe. And to be okay with that, both of those. Right. And then the goal is to be fully present in all of my nature and my surroundings, not lost in thoughts in my head. And when I'm fully present in all of my nature and my surroundings, I bring everything to whatever's going on. And then life becomes easy. But each one of those has a different nature and a different function, needs a different kind of attention on a regular basis, goes off in a different way and responds to a different kind of intervention.
Now,
So
I'm hoping.
Each one, it's due.
I'm really hoping you don't think I'm psychic or something, but this morning, as I did my outdoor workout, it was just something that came. Oh, you can't. Can you see that? It says the big picture. And I was like, oh, I have to write that down. I want to do this whole talk about it. And it's just so crazy that this is your 8th point. And the thing that was kind of coming to me really was a lot of the times I could say this as a business owner, you could get wrapped up in the muck, and it's better to concentrate on the overallness and the big picture of what you want to create instead of getting caught up in all the small things. Think, what is it that I, at the end of the day, want? What am I trying to achieve? What's the bigger picture? The bigger picture is I'm creating a sisterhood where women support each other and they have a soft place to fall. And so I look then at the bigger picture and see if everything falls into that.
Right. Because what you want to do is you want to keep the big picture in mind, and you want to do all your little things with the big picture in mind. Because the little things need to serve the big picture. Right?
Yeah.
And then if you're working with other people, then they need to understand your big picture so that what they do also serves the big picture. So
true. And I really found that then I know what I'm about, so I have to protect the environment that I'm creating. And part of protecting the environment, sometimes you have to have a difficult conversation or two, but it's worth it in the end. So I always go back to that, looking at the big picture. And I think today, if you guys can look at the big picture of how your mind, your body, your heart all kind of work together as one to create this fantastic life, it just all goes together. It's a big picture, and to be able to take care of ourselves and have great health, we, instead of looking at, I'm hungry now, I must go through the McDonald's drive-through. Oh God, did I say McDonald's? I'm sorry. We might have to cut that, but I have to go.
You've got to leave that in.
I have to go through fast food right now because I need to feed the hungry beasts. No, instead, we'll take the preparedness part of your talk and we'll think about the bigger picture part of your talk, and we'll say, no, instead I need to have some berries that aren't sprayed with pesticides.
Yeah, and it's okay to feel hungry sometimes. You don't always have
It's
to
not going to kill you to be a
race
little
to eat.
hungry.
Yeah, it's okay. Just feel it. It's a sign of life. Dead people never feel it. So hunger is a gift too, right?
Right.
So the reason I said I was going to talk about why sexy, there's nothing as sexy, either gender, than a person fully present in all of their being and their surroundings and able to respond and dance the dance. There's nothing more sexy than that. And each one of those 8 pieces confers some of the sexy, the presence.
Mm.
And when you get out of line with one of those, you lose some of it.
Oh gosh, for
And when you
sure.
get back in line, you get it back. So
And I,
living fully present in all of our being and our surroundings is the recipe for sexy.
I love
And I
that.
don't mean by sexy, I don't mean rubbing genitals. When I'm talking about sexy, it's like we call a lot of non-sexual things sexy, like sexy art and sexy literature and sexy inventions and sexy gadgets, right? They're not having sex. It has something to do with showing up, being full on, being present, and that's attractive. There's nothing as attractive as being fully present in all of your being and your surroundings.
I love that so much because I agree wholeheartedly that the sexiest thing is a person that fully is in full ownership of who they are. They know who they are, they embrace who they are,
Yeah.
and they're unapologetic about it. And that to me is so
Yeah.
sexy. It's just what is you uniquely. And if we can just learn to embrace more of our authenticity and not worry so much, that's what's truly sexy. That's what somebody likes about you. It's the person, not the shell.
Yep. Yep.
So good. This has been so great today. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And you have something to give the audience. Can you tell
I,
everybody
I,
about
I
it?
I have no idea. People give things on my behalf. I think what is it? I think they told you, right?
You know what? I'm going to put this in the show
Put it
notes
in the show
because
notes. Yeah. There's
I
something.
think it was some kind of a book about total sexy health.
Oh yeah. All right. The e-version of Total Sexy Health is one, and there was something else as well, and I don't remember what it was.
I will definitely make sure to actually I'll look at my notes and I'll
Yeah.
tell everybody because I always tell everybody what the podcast is about.
Yeah.
So this has been so good today, and I feel like it was such a treat to have you on again so soon. And I hope
Yeah.
everybody has gotten a lot out of this. What is
I
one tip you would like to leave? Just a short tip for everybody to just kind of remain in their mind.
fall in love with stillness every day. Just a few minutes.
Perfect. Everybody, this has been wonderful. Make sure you leave a great review for Udo's. Check out his website, which is what?
UDO'sChoice.com is where the products are. We will work with digestive enzymes, oils, probiotics. Udo's Choice, UDO's Choice.com. And then I have
And
another site that is theudo.com, THEUDO.com. And on that, we have educational material and some courses.
and
Some
just a
books.
little plug for you. I love his oils are the best, you guys. And I use them. I use your Udo's oil, it's the one that has everything in it. I'll have to look, but I freaking love it. I use it to make salad dressing because it tastes good. It does not have any kind of a rank taste like some of these oils out there because you process them in the right way. So you guys make sure to check out all his
Best,
products.
best thing, makes skin soft and velvety and increases energy level. We measured athletes 40 to 60% increase in stamina in their sport when they do it to exhaustion after 30 days of taking a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day. So most people would take 2 to 4 tablespoons. This is like the food oil foundation made with health in mind.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure now that you've reiterated that in my mind to take, you said a tablespoon per 50
Or
pounds of
50.
body weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
A day, mixed in food and intake spread out over the course of the day.
All right. We're going to do that because we all need more energy and stamina in life to, if we're going to have total sexy health. And this has been a great show. And I just want to thank you for coming on and thank all the listeners out there.
Thank you, Linda. It's really fun. I really have fun with you.
You are a lot of fun, and we have such deep conversations. You're such a wealth of information, but also you have such a good heart that it's really enjoyable for me as well as the audience.
Thank you. It takes one to know one.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat.